I'd like to call to order the Connersville Board of Aviation Commissioners, and we'll begin with roll call. Harold?
Here.
Present. Andy Yarian, present.
Tim Patterson, present.
Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Make a motion.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved then. Approval of the claims.
Move to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Paul?
We've got your grant came in for the next payment on the hangar project. So we'll do that. We've got a little bit left in AIP 32, which is the first motion here, and that'll get you basically. So that's a motion on AIP 32, pay request number 4. And that covers a couple BFS invoices here, totaling $14,000. And so that's the first one. And then the new grant is AIP 35. That'll be the next one.
We need a motion to approve pay request number 4.
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved? Okay. We need a motion to approve pay request number 1.
I'll make it.
The remaining payments on the progress estimate.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
So that one's nice. It gets you a little bit more towards the balance of the ability to keep your loan payments down. So now the next two are progress estimate 3, which came in just after the last board meeting, and they submitted progress estimate number 4 too. So these are both to Thor contracting for the building, which one just happened to be the July. And that's $201,034.87. And then the August one is $91,071.75. Of 4, we are holding retainage on the project of $44,000 to this point. So you'll still have of this plus the balance to complete out there on any issues, which there's still quite a few items that we haven't paid out at all. Excavation, the under drains, the concrete, the asphalt drive, all those items. So, and then we've got all of the electrical. We haven't paid anything on electrical or anything on gas just yet. So we've probably got about 20% of the project left in addition to the 44,000 in retainage. So
Can we make a motion to approve both estimate 3 and 4?
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Okay.
So moved. Okay.
thank you. The other items are just more informational. I don't think we're ready to take action on this. We reported last month that the line from the solar farm to the terminal building had been hit. We do have some estimates in. We're still waiting on some more math to be able to. Right now, we're recommending using the contractor's electrician rather than PSG. It's substantial, regardless of the course on that repair, if we repair it. So our assumption is we will be repairing it. We have a $50,000 allotment in there for utilities that it would be repaired under. Both repair scenarios under the contractor. One's approximately $20,000. It has a splice. The other one's $40,000. It has no splice. So, with that, we're still not, we're pretty sure we want to use our contractor, our electrician to do the work. But we want to make sure that we're doing the right repair for the community. That makes sense. So, we'll take a IOU on that one, and while we do a little bit more homework until the next board meeting.
Question I have, Mr. Mayor. Whose overall responsibility is it for the solar farms around the community?
Who's what?
Who's responsible for those? I mean,
What do you mean? Responsible for what? Maintenance or ownership of them?
ownership of them?
We own them, have them, as, they did a, Shelley might, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but there's, when they put them in, there was a guaranteed savings, which I think's not a good term to use, but that's what they call it, where you have a loan and the savings pays for the loan, and it, after like 7 years, I think it starts to reverse a little bit to where you start to generate revenue off of it. So your first 7 to 10 years is loaded where it's break even, if not losing a little, but it makes the payments. And then after that, you start you start generating revenue. I don't know what the forecasts look like though. Rosemary have all that information.
Question.
Every year it makes money after that gets past its break even point.
Okay, so we're gonna spend $20,000 to $40,000 fixing this thing, it sounds like. What's our ROI on it?
Can't tell you. Rosemary has no information.
I mean, you know, certainly about utilizing what we have, we've made that investment, but I mean, if we're gonna have to spend $20,000 to $40,000 of our own money, and we're not gonna recoup that on top of what we already have to pay back on a loan when we purchased it, is it better just leave it unhooked?
But it's going to offset the payment, so it has to be made up somehow.
Okay,
Then Rosemary have all the answers to that because I don't have that information.
She did, Rosemary sent the maintenance agreement out with PSG. I'll forward that to the board. She sent that to, like, it was just sent to me. So I'll forward that to the rest of the board so you can see what the maintenance contract is with PSG. It doesn't appear that you have to have it maintained by PSG, although you have an agreement to have them do maintenance at a discounted rate if you'd like. So, and regardless of whether they hit it or they didn't hit it, the line runs right under the building. So the utility allowance of $50,000 was exactly put in place for this reason. It would have to be moved. You can't have the line under the building, so it's not like a cost that you wouldn't have incurred because the line had to be moved over.
okay.
I'm just trying, it was a little bit of a surprise of exactly where it was at because it was not in a real obvious place of where it would have been. And there were no records or markers or anything to indicate it was there. And the contractor assumed that it paralleled the electrical service coming in. So, maybe poor assumption, but regardless, it would have had to been moved anyway. So it would come out of that allowance.
Okay,
We have enough money to do the allowance. Of course, any money you can save in that process, the community's better off. It's just, eventually you'll be paid back for this with the grant dollars, but in the interim, you are borrowing money from the bank and paying interest on whatever money you have out until the shares come back. So there is an interest expense on whatever money you have there. So we certainly want to do the most cost-effective solution. The cheaper one is one that has 2 splices in it, which reduces efficiency of the system. It creates resistance in the line. The more expensive option, which I think probably is what PSG would want, is that that's one solid run from the farm to the terminal, which would give you the best output. So that's what we're trying to determine what not necessarily if we do something or we don't do something, we're trying to determine whether the splice connection compared to the overall pull connection is worth the difference of the $20,000 basically is what we're trying to figure out.
okay.
Can they in any way tell us what is lost in the splice due to the splice?
That's exactly what I'm trying to get at, Tim. I don't know that it seems to me logical
Surely they could give
that
us.
you could calculate it.
Sure.
And Yeah, and that's what we're trying to get out of it.
I mean, it can be some, but it could be minute too.
That, yeah, if it's insignificant in the grand scheme of the output, then yeah, that's exactly the question. We would have had to relocate the line. So when we relocate the line, should we relocate the whole line or should we splice it? That's really the question at hand. And it's more of a difference than what you'd think, because if you're familiar with it, the solar farm is up there around the corner, at the corner of the entrance, and the terminal is quite a ways away. So that's the reason for the difference, is it's quite a run. So the splice would just basically take it from let's see, it would be the west side of the driveway and splice it, run it down closer to the beacon tower and cross over with the other utilities that are in place. Where right now, it came under the drive and went across the field, basically the grass patch, diagonally across the grass patch where we built the hangar.
Mhm.
So,
This being basically produces electricity. When it senses a load, maybe unlike the grid, does that load create more of a problem because of that splice? Or is that just reducing the, you might say, pressure that's coming from that solar field? Does that solar field sense that load and put a draw? Or is it just there floating, adding as it's needed?
yeah, I don't know. I think that's a question that will need PSG's help to answer. I'm not a solar.
Because I mean, if it's just producing and there is really no load being drawn on that.
Yeah.
I don't know where the splice would be such a,
My assumption would be it would be reduced efficiency, reduced output. I don't think the actual panels themselves would be impacted. It would just be whatever
Right.
is on the receiving end would be slightly less than if there were no splices.
Another question I would have is, does that in any way void the guaranteed savings with PSG if we splice it and it doesn't produce what it should, as if it were a solid line?
Can't answer that.
Okay. And then if it would void our maintenance agreement if we spliced it versus. Okay.
Can't answer that.
Where's Ian?
Well, you have that same agreement out at high school, don't you?
Yeah, I believe it was PSG. I believe it was.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking back in 17, 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what Rosemary sent me was just the maintenance agreement.
Okay.
Which would seem to me like the guaranteed savings part of it is probably past. And you're probably in the maintenance. This is all just generating for the community, I would think. So I'll send you what she sent me and then you guys can take a look at it.
I would just say one other thing about a splice. And these other questions I don't know the answer to.
Mhm.
But when you put a splice on electric underground, all you're doing is waiting for the day when it's going to cause you a problem. That's going to happen.
If
I think the resistance that's there when you first put it in is the least it'll ever be. And over time, that splice underground is going to continue.
I don't think the splice is going to be underground.
Well, the splice would not be underground.
If I understand it
Okay.
correctly, it won't be
it
underground.
would come up on the side of the building,
Oh, okay,
be in watertight,
Well,
okay.
and then come back down.
I think that's true at the terminal building. I don't know how, because it needs to be, if we don't go all the way back to the farm, then there needs to be a splice somewhere in there, whether that's in like a quasi box beside the side of the road or whether they put it up on a pedestal. I'm not sure.
But it's not really just going to be
Buried.
hooked together and buried.
It won't be covered up. It'll be accessible, but
Okay.
it could be below grade in a quasi box, basically.
So obviously, we're not going to make a decision on direction at this point.
I say we need more
Yeah,
information.
we need some more clarity there on.
But if I, and maybe I'm confused, we were gonna relocate this line anyway.
Well, it would have had to been, honestly, before construction, we had no idea where it was at. So, based off of our 811 locates, and they did some ground penetrating radar of the general vicinity of utilities that they, before they started construction. And then any record drawings that were provided to us, there was no indication that there was a line. So,
But to reroute the cable before construction started would have been much, much easier than it is now,
I think it would have been the same effort.
would it?
Yeah, because it's, yeah, I mean, right now, basically, it's cut off at the buildings and cut off at the, now, when they grabbed the wire, it did pull the wire off of a bus bar in the box by the terminal building and it damaged that bus bar. So that bus bar might not have been damaged, so there might have been a little less, because that bus bar was damaged, but
But to reroute it around the construction site would, to me, would have appeared to have been easier before you poured,
well,
maybe not.
it's right now, it's all rerouting. I mean, it's all exposed. There's no pavement or anything under where they're rerouting it, except for the road, right? Where the road's at. So, I don't know. Yeah, I outside of the damage to that box at the terminal, I don't think it would have been really anything.
Will they have a decision? Not necessarily a decision, but some more answers between now and our next board meeting, do we would have to take a vote on what we're going to do before the next board meeting?
I
Do you
don't,
think that timeline, or is it, can we wait until the next board meeting and?
to me, that it's not, this is like a secondary power source, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's a emergency type
Okay.
of situation.
I didn't know how quickly the contractors or what the,
Yeah, the contractor hopes to be substantially complete by the next board meeting. Panels will be poured, and I would recommend, even if we don't have this resolved, that we go ahead and let them occupy.
Oh.
There is an asphalt, or let the board occupy it. There is an asphalt drive that gets paved between the terminal building and the hangar, but there's enough grass area they can run beside that to the meter. It really shouldn't impact any additional cost to complete the construction out. It's gonna be what it is to get it over there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So hopefully we've got a few more answers next time. Figure out what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Old business?
I got some, I guess it'd be old business. Spoke with Jason from Airstrip Attack. I think you all got a copy of the contract. And I think I made, did Pete send you one? I don't think I had your.
Yes.
Okay.
I've got it.
Yeah, okay.
I reviewed it. Yes.
Okay. I spoke with Jason Friday. He gave me a call. He wanted to let me know he'd have a site map complete, basically where staging would be, where we would run, where spectators would set, have all that kind of ironed out based upon aerial views from Google Earth or wherever it would be. And then he wanted to see about, he said he'd have that done the next week to 2 weeks at max. And then he wanted to set up an appointment for a Zoom call with, any of the board members, of course, Mr. Mayor, any city people that would be involved, just to answer any questions, to go over everything. And I told him I would certainly run that by, and we can communicate via email on a good time, schedule wise, and get that set up with Jason. And hopefully get this thing submitted to the FAA if it's the direction we want to go, and make sure we move forward and we got all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. And then he's stated that Airstrip Attack is not going to do their Marion event next year. They're going to use this event to replace it. So hopefully get us a little bit more success, I guess, those drivers coming down with us. But as I read through the contract, it looked, and Ann, you can certainly comment, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like they were assuming all responsibility and paying for everything. EMS, fire, police, tow truck. If there's any damage whatsoever, they'll repair it to 100% to our liking. I know that talked with Pete, and there were a few corrections on the contract. I think it's a kind of a blanket contract they use with all airports, to the dates, and maybe even the location wasn't correct, but it's a rough draft. I think, they can change those things pretty easily, but it's, for a first time event, I think it looked acceptable to me.
I think, I mean, the net income to the city would be about the same, no, more than our food trailer. Based on did you read the contract?
I have not had a chance.
Okay. But so from an income to the airport, it would be about the
What was
same.
that dollar amount?
Uh,
What did you think the dollar amount was? Estimated
5,000.
$1,000.
Plus, they're gonna pay city for fire. um, So I can't guess what that would be.
Yeah, there was no number mentioned in there, just so they would take care of any, potential. And I don't know if the city has a blanket number, hey, for this amount of time, if you want us to be there. And I think when I talked to Jason, he stated really, if you could just have a police officer just come in, just everyone, they don't have to be hanging out there. EMS, they would like somebody there, and fire, they would like somebody there, and tow truck, they would like somebody there the whole entire 2-day event. But,
Tow truck could be outside of the city.
correct, they'll take
The
care of
rest of them
that.
have to be overtime guys. We can't pull anybody off. We're so short right now.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
and that,
wondering if we could, talk to some of the volunteers,
I think it's a possibility.
truck there,
Yeah.
people there. Might not cost us anything.
They would, yeah, I would, if we were gonna ask the volunteers to come in, I would like for,
To get some parts.
to give them something for their
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I mean, they are, if they're gonna do that,
That would save the city that expense.
It wouldn't be an expense, though, to pay them directly.
Yeah.
Plus you got territory or districts you gotta be careful of. That's in our district.
Well, I just
Oh,
thought it might be
you're
something,
coming, yeah, yeah.
something you could,
It's an idea,
it's worth a discussion.
sure. But, I think those are questions we can ask Jason during our Zoom meeting. How does that work as far as compensating the city for services that are beyond the airport?
We have rates set up. It's just overtime rates.
Okay. But that's pretty much it. Jason's gonna reach back out to me with the map, and then, we'll get a time set up with Zoom and whatever's best for everybody as far as, scheduling something there. And
And are they still planning to come back again?
we can ask him that.
Well, no, he had mentioned it when he was here.
Okay, well, I haven't talked to him about that.
Yeah,
You mean a rerun?
basically they were gonna come back and
Mhm.
but we had requested that the manager of the airport, and he probably delegated it to somebody.
That's what managers do.
We wanted to talk to the, Mary, did you do that?
Yeah, and it was very good for the city, brought in a decent crowd, and he spoke very highly of the outfit. I mean, they cleaned up, did what they said they were gonna do, so. And then they gave out a note of, they have 2 runways over there, so their one note was call in 15 minutes prior to landing if they need the long runway, so. We'll have to figure out how we're gonna note them.
Quarter mile?
Half?
Yeah, they run half mile. That's the allure, because we got a 6,500-foot runway and you do half-mile runs. And you can't find too many raceways that'll do half mile because they just don't have it. And so runway's about the only place you really got. So,
I mean, my stupidity, but I thought they were only doing like 1,000 feet now.
on drag racing,
Yeah.
I think that's in third, flat race. But on asphalt, I mean, you can do 1/8 mile, quarter mile, but the allure here is, half mile because you got such a long runway and 100 feet wide and, you got plenty of room to run. So, but,
What was the downside? The FAA,
The,
the FAA closed the runway.
yeah, we can't close the runway, right?
I mean,
Well, we have 2 runways too.
Yeah, we got the grass.
Yeah.
You can close a runway, you just have to ask for permission, which my understanding is they've gone through that at Marion
mhm,
and they know how to do that.
Yeah.
So they were gonna even do that, you weren't even have to.
correct. They would handle all that, basically just send us, they fill out whatever forms the FAA is going to do and just send it to our, I guess it'd be our district office.
Yep.
I don't know if it'd be the.
They do all the promoting.
Well,
Good.
the FSDO gets notified, the district office, they've got that form and it's like, you're gonna close the airport, what's in it for you kind of thing. It's money and, and community awareness and being a good community partner, promoting, making the asset available to the community besides those who just fly airplanes, that kind of stuff.
Right.
They write up below one page and send it to the ADO. And there's usually like an airspace plan that gives the dates and times, like from this time to this time, the runway will be closed. This is how we're going to keep, issue NOTAMs, and then when we open it back up, how we keep the pedestrians off, that kind of stuff, of the safety plan kind of thing.
And then one thing Jason did ask, he asked if we can get some essentially letters of recommendation or letters of support from tenants. If there were a handful of tenants that would say, hey, we're in favor of this kind of thing. It doesn't have to be all of them, but I mean, if we can get some of them, and he said he had a kind of a template where we can, if somebody wanted to, we're not going to do it for them. That's obviously not right. But if, they want to step up, that would help, But I think, for a first time event, for them to pay us $5,000 for 2 days of rental, we're not shutting down our runway, and they take care of everything. It's not terrible. I mean, it's a start, and if it works out, great. Hey, then, and I think that's when you can start negotiating maybe increases in, or rental rates or whatever. But for the first time, you don't know. I mean, you could have 10 people show up, or you could have 100. Who knows?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a source of revenue. I think it's a source of, it's a way to kind of shine the light on the airport and get some attention to it, even though it's not 100% aviation, really not any aviation. But I mean, I think it'd be a good thing for the community. I think it'll draw some people in and, get us here, like you were saying with me.
And if I remember correctly, they're going to speak with local businesses, et cetera, for sponsorship, aren't they?
I think he mentioned that. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, I think they would take all the dollars that they could get
Yeah.
if they could get businesses to sponsor signs or, marketing. I mean, any of that. I think they would.
So they get that revenue.
If say, for example, they came to me and said, hey, are you willing to sponsor? And this is what you get out of it. It's $250, $500.
But that money goes to them.
Yeah.
So what if we promoted some of that?
I don't know. That's a good question for him. Yeah, we can ask him
If we
that.
could go to our local businesses and say,
You know what? If I remember correctly, they were going to ask us to assist.
Yeah.
But they still get the money.
I think that they were probably, I remember them saying, posting some marketing materials on our website and
Yeah.
our social media pages, to raise awareness. But I don't think there's anything as far as any print or, run this billboard or that sign. The things are going to be cost us. Yeah. But those are all great questions for Jason. We get on a call with him and, go from there. But I think he's, it seems like he's well-oiled machine. He's going to get it done.
Yeah, they spoke
That makes
highly
me feel much better personally.
Yeah.
I mean,
of,
I wonder if they know they're losing it though.
I don't know, they didn't mention.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work for the airport, right?
Yeah, I mean, people
It's
have to
not
be on the
really-
radio.
It's more
I'm
of a
sorry.
community thing.
I'm sorry, Nate. You have no top-down support, and I understand that.
Sorry about your
It's all good.
Sorry about your luck.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we move on? If there's nothing else, can we move on to new business?
This is an interesting conversation because the conversation we're getting ready to have with Adam Stone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Adam Stone is our city controller. He's our financial advisor. With the effects of SB1, we knew it was going to be bad. It's bad. And it gets decimating going forward. We have a major problem with the airport right now. We're trying to figure out, we're about 125,000 upside down. We're based off property tax revenues to fund the airport, and property tax revenues are not there. So Adam's going to talk to us a little bit. I'm not trying to paint a bleak picture. I'm trying to paint a good picture. I'm just giving you the facts. Then with the airport, there's not much wiggle room anywhere. We went through everything. And so we've either got to find ways to generate revenue, or we're going to have to cut, and I don't know what to cut. So Adam, you want to take it over? And he's froze. It's on his end, not ours. Let's see if I can call him.
He's getting back going. There he comes.
There you go. You there, Adam?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I closed the tab. Are you ready for me, Mayor?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. I don't know if you heard
All right,
everything I
let
said.
me share my screen. Hey, everybody, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah. Did you hear everything I just said or not?
I did. Yep. I will, first off, it's nice to meet everyone virtually. I've been working with the city for the last couple of years, and each year we participate with the clerk, treasurer, and mayor's office and council to help put together the airport operating budget for the incoming year as it relates to your property tax funds. And really the last couple of years, no issue. As the mayor outlined, we are working on the 2026 budget right now for all the property tax funds of the city, of which aviation is one of those. And we're kind of responding to what the new state law is. So I'm not sure, I guess first and foremost, is everyone generally aware of the property tax reform that passed through the State House earlier this year? Would an overview be helpful?
I think most people understand it for the most part. So.
Okay. So, in short, property tax revenues are getting harder and harder to come by. They are also actually being reduced directly as a result of new credits and those types of things. So, from a homeowner and a taxpayer perspective, that's a good thing, right? Like there's a new homestead. Any of you that own a property in Fayette County, you now have a new credit next year on your tax bill. That's good. The downside is that is a dollar for dollar credit reduction to revenues that we had this year that we're not going to have next year. So that brings me to kind of why I'm talking to you all today. When we look at the property tax revenue for the city, we are balancing that. We're trying to balance that in preparation of going to council. So ultimately, it's a council decision on how property tax revenue is allocated across the different funds, aviation being one of them. The city's general fund receives the majority of property tax revenue, and that is because that is the fund that pays police, fire, and EMS. Where we are seeing a challenge here is that 70% of the airport's operating budget has been made up of property tax in the past, and that is going to get very challenging to sustain. Again, it's not a vote. I don't even have a vote on the matter. This is really mayor and council decision, but we felt pretty strongly that we needed to come present this information to you all. You're essentially competing with public safety requests at this point, and a meaningful amount of your revenue, at least your operating funds, have come in the form of property tax revenue. I did a bit of research to find out there's multiple municipal airports. I started my career at the city of Greenwood, so I'm very familiar with like the Greenwood Municipal Airport, now Indy South Airport, for any of you that are familiar with that one. I was essentially the CFO for that airport for a while as well. So I know quite a bit of airport finances and know how important property tax revenue is to a municipal airport. And frankly, how important a municipal airport is to the area and economic development and all of that. So we come today proactively to try to, find solutions and work with you all to see if there, are adjustments that can be made, and or at least put this on your radar so that you can start having those conversations and plans in preparation of future budget sort of surprises. So I did some research. There are 36 cities or towns that adopt a budget that have an airport component to their property tax budgets. And of that, there are about 21, so a little more than half of the qualifying airports even pass a tax rate. That tax rate that they pass varies wildly. The lowest is about a penny per $100 of assessed value. and the highest is about $0.25 per $100 in assessed value. So in other words, like a mill to 25 mills, if you're familiar with that sort of phrasing. So the big in Connersville is on the sort of mid of the 21 that passed, and towards the lower end, about 0.5 cents, a nickel per 100, or 5 mills is the current tax rate. So a part of your property taxes is funding the airport today, and part of the community's property tax bill is funding the airport today. And it's really the council's decision to allocate property tax from the different funds. The major funds that receive property tax today are the general fund, because of the public safety component, the motor vehicle highway fund for street maintenance, parks for recreation and amenities and those types of things, and then the airport. So, I wanted to, I've been sharing with the mayor and clerk treasurer kind of some of the forecasts that we're seeing as a result of the new credits and reductions, and just wanted to come have a conversation with you all today. The challenge we see is clear, and just wanted to kind of initiate a conversation with you all. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any specific estimates, and certainly understand this is the start of the conversation, not the end. So happy to kind of work with the right appropriated parties there at the board to make any adjustments or provide any other different additional information. Ultimately, this is a kind of an airport and council decision and discussion, but certainly has impacts, and we wanted to make sure to be transparent about it. I'll pause there. Any questions, thoughts, feedback that we can, or additional data that we can provide?
I have a question. And what's the projected impact of?
Yeah. So, as far as just looking at the airport, the most extreme sort of impact, if all property tax revenue, for example, was removed from the airport, in other words, sort of allocated to other areas or put on their priorities, the total revenue impact that would no longer be flowing from property tax to the airport is about $137,000 per year. So just to be clear on sort of the options, the council could decide to do no property tax to the airport. They could decide to do more property tax to the airport. Historically speaking, over the last several years, the amount of property tax going to the airport has been a few percent. It's just not really been there's not been a big enough reason to come have this conversation in light of the new state law. The reality is the conversation needs to happen, and it really is just a conversation of priorities and making sure that everybody knows where property tax dollars are flowing and that everybody's good with those allocations.
Of all the property taxes coming in, what's the current percentage? What percentage does the airport take out of the current property tax?
Yep, less than 2%.
Less than 2%.
Yep, on a net basis. Yep, on a net basis, your 2025 is just double checking that. Yeah, you're like less than 2% of the total property tax, and it represents a significant source of your budget, which is why we wanted to come have the conversation. And again, just to make the point clear, the challenge has been, that it really comes down to council priorities, and because ultimately that's just funding that could go elsewhere if they decide, or more, like I said, more could be allocated to the airport. Both are true. The way the state of Indiana works is there is an amount of property tax that's collected, and then it's up to the unit each year to sort of allocate that. So the state doesn't dictate how much has to go to the airport or what going to that is a local decision. And like the data suggests, about half the airports receive property tax revenue and half do not. I think what you will see though over the next few years, the new law starts in 2026 and goes up, increases through 2031. So, but for an appeal or an amendment to the current legislation, the property tax revenue is going to get more scarce significantly. So we just wanted to kind of bring this for you today and make sure that you are aware of some of the conversations.
I'm sure the people, the airports that are getting property tax are probably some of the smaller communities.
Yeah, I can, you all know, let me pull it up. I'll just read down the list. This is in I'll read maybe the top 5 or so, just so you can know kind of what airports, and this is in order of the most tax versus least tax. French Lick, Huntington, Warsaw, Plymouth, Wabash, Portland. And then just to round out a few more until we get to Connersville, Marion, Anderson, Peru, Elkhart, Connersville. And then there's about 10 or so more that have a lower tax rate. Just to give you, if you're familiar with these airports, Columbus, Galveston, Greensburg, Kokomo, North Vernon, Shelbyville, Richmond are examples of airports that do that are municipal airports that do not receive property tax.
Real quick second, this is Paul Scherer. So all the airports you listed are Board of Aviation Commissioners, meaning they're like a unit of a city.
That's right. Yeah, that would be my understanding as well.
Yeah, so that's, and just so you know, you're a Board of Aviation Commissioners. And the reason there's half that receive taxes is because that's about half of the airports in the state are also run by an airport authority, which has its own taxing entity. So I would say almost 100% of the airports, with the exception of a very few, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, even South Bend and Evansville are on the tax rolls. They're just in the form of an airport authority. So that's, and like Seymour, Indiana is an airport authority, but they still don't collect any tax.
Mhm.
But then there are a lot of airports like DeKalb County, Putnam County, Frankfurt, Clinton County, they're airport authorities, so their tax doesn't fall under the city council or a county council, although the city council and county council in the case of Frankfurt have kind of a review, an annual budget approval once a year, but it's just like any other city or town, it comes through once a year and any special appropriations from the appropriated fund. But one benefit like that happened at Frankfurt. Frankfurt was a Board of Aviation Commissioners, then they formed an airport authority. And then from there, they were airport authority, but then they went to a joint city-county airport authority. And the reason is to spread the operating burden over the entire assessed value of the county rather than just the footprint of the city. And so I guess that's some questions that you could ask, and I don't know if you're inclined to partner with Fayette County a little bit. I mean, the airports are very regional. They have regional impact and regional benefit. Of course, the compromise there is a loss of control. Usually it's half the appointees come from the city, half would come from the county, but it does help. That $137,000 over the whole county tax base is a lot easier pill to swallow and generate. And I guess, do you know, is I assume the city of Connersville is already at their circuit breaker. Is Fayette County at the circuit breaker as well? Do you know?
Let me check. I'm pretty certain, but let me double check for you real quick.
Mr. Mayor, from an ownership perspective, doesn't each county own?
It's all city. It's all city.
So I'm not saying those are the right things, but just some other things to think about when you're crunching the numbers. I think when we did and this was after the last round of tax caps. So when Mitch Daniels did the first round of property tax reform, this is when Clinton County and Frankfurt went through this because they had a similar issue. The city was going to be really strapped for cash. And so the county decided that the asset was important enough for economic development that they wanted to make sure that they could at least match their federal grants, because that's where 95% of the money is coming from the state and NDOT to maintain those major capitals. So at a minimum, they needed to raise enough to match grants. So they decided to go countywide, and it's still, and they both were at the circuit breaker, but the way it kind of worked out is it was still a increase for the county, but it was a slight decrease for the city in the net because they were both at circuit breaker, but the increase in the county was minuscule in comparison to what was going to be increased on the city. So, but the county, they were willing to take that slight increase because they now had a seat at the table to control the asset. So that, I mean, nothing in life is free. So that would be something to talk about, I suppose, if you were interested.
That's a good point. And I just wanted to close the loop with you. County is at circuit breaker as well. And they have about, this is round numbers, but their assessed valuation, their tax base countywide is about 2 times that of the city only. So in simple terms, whatever tax rate that the airport is charging on the city would be half that if it was applied countywide.
I have heard that there has been some possible discussion of some amendments to this. Has that anything like that been floating around, that it's maybe they taken a look at their whole card and decided maybe we've made a mistake here?
Yes, sir. We have heard that as well. There are committees, there are multiple committees, some of which we're informing that are essentially serving as almost a summer study committee, if you will, if you've seen that in other sessions. But nothing is state law. And the only thing that is state law is what's before us right now. Where I would say I think that you could see some softening of the language and such. The homestead credit is, I just have a hard time believing anyone is going to take that away. And that is a net new credit that's not only starting next year, it's fully phased in next year. So I feel like that one is going to be fairly sticky. I think you'll see some clarification on some of the more technical definitions and those kind of things as a result of any legislation kind of cleans that up. But you are correct. I think that the bill goes a lot farther than a lot of stakeholders may have assumed. And I think 2026 is really just the start of it. I mean, to put it in perspective, a homestead property is going to be assessed at 2/3 of what it's assessed at today by 2031. So even on a conservative estimate, it's going to be twice the deduction than it was currently and in the past. So that just puts a lot of ceiling on property tax growth. So the city across the board is going to have to be creative, and council's going to have to consider a lot of different other ways to cover the cost of service of public safety and parks and roads. And I think airports are going to have to do the same, specifically as it relates to the property tax, as those dollars just get more and more competitive. And they've been competitive for decades. This just bill creates a new acceleration of that of sorts.
What are your thoughts on, and I don't know, I mean, to me, city councils and mayors and so forth are in a real pickle because they did give you some tools, quote unquote, local area option income taxes. You can increase your innkeeper's tax and try to make up this delta. But the reality of it is that's a local tax that you have to, do you think a lot of communities are gonna leverage that? I know when we do some work around the Indy area, which is a lot different than the rural area. And I know like Noblesville and Fishers and Carmels, they'll all hit that income tax and those other taxes without missing a beat. But it's a slightly different environment there than it is out here. I was just curious on what you thought the options were there.
We have to redo all of our lit taxes by 2028. Is that correct, Adam?
Yep, that's right. So another aspect of the bill is that it completely dissolves local income taxes in Indiana. So right now, if there's no action taken by any fiscal body in 2028, there is no local income tax in Indiana. The challenge with that is local income tax is that either the number one or number two general fund revenue source in cities and towns today. So when you look at like really any city, Connersville included, local income tax is a major revenue source funding public safety. So, dissolving that, taking that to zero by 2028 is very challenging. So what the state legislators provided was they essentially made it a home rule decision in 2028. So if you were population eligible, you could adopt your own municipal local income tax up to 1.2%. And in most communities, I would say that 1.2% is kind of gets them in a make whole state. Some communities, they do better off at 1.2. In other words, they would not need 1.2% to break even at what they're collecting today. Unfortunately, there are some that we've calculated that even like a 1.7, 1.8 rate above the cap would not make them whole. So they will have a haircut still. That's kind of how we've seen these things shake out currently. Again, hoping for some amendments there, specifically on local income tax, because there's some things procedurally that folks have taken issue with. I know that's something that we're going to be talking with council about. We would like to talk to the county about, and the time is essentially now on that, because it has to be adopted and filed no later than October 2027, so that there's no gap in revenue collection in 2028. With that said, it feels like 2027. That's a few years out. That's a big political decision that takes a lot of individuals. So I know there's a lot of communities that are already having early and often conversations about that during their 2026 budget, for the very point of if their community, for example, is a hard no on passing that, then you really have to understand that now, so that if you have a police department requesting new positions or a fire department requesting new positions, well, a major funding source of those positions is set to go to zero in 2028. So just creates a planning cycle that communities in Indiana have not had to worry with in the past. I think that's an opportunity, and it's a conversation, and that would be the county and the city have an option to enact a municipal local income tax in the fall of 27 or after.
It made it extremely difficult for us. So I just give you some round numbers, just share with you what I'm currently dealing with. Just our local property tax general fund revenue was going to increase like $280,000. It should have increased like over $1 million, but that's how we're getting $280,000. Along with that, they increased our fire and police perf, which we don't get a choice on. That ate up about $150,000. Just that increase alone ate up more than half of our total income. Electricity, 16% over 2 years. Gas, we're already upside down, and I haven't got anywhere yet other than just what they cut us and they forced us to expend more money, and it's been an absolute nightmare to try to figure out this budget this year. So we're bringing it to your attention just so you can understand we're dealing with a lot of different things. And this one in particular is a deficit that we have not solved yet. And we and Adam and I, Rosemary, we're diving into this thing as hard as possible. It's funny with property tax, and those property taxes are going away. So we have to find other ways to fund the airport to keep it going. And I'll be honest, I don't know what that is.
I think we as a board need to look at this, and maybe make some hard decisions.
I would like to know exactly what is our budget. I haven't seen that.
Adam can tell you real fast. What's
Sure,
the overall
yeah.
budget you got in front of you?
Yeah, the total budget that was approved this year is total amount. The fund code is 2206 that I'm specifically. So this wouldn't relate to any of your AIPs. This is your operating budget, and the total budget is $190,025. And I can email out the sort of line items that make up that. Kind of break that down, as well as sort of, if you'd like to see sort of actuals to budget, we can make sure that that's all made available to you.
I would like to see that.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Mayor, I don't know if I have everyone's email, so I'll forward that to you and then let you broadcast it.
Yep.
And just, the from our perspective, to get balanced, we're looking at a gap of about $124,000. And now some of that is the airport revenues. Some of that could be property tax. It could be other, budget reductions as well. I'll defer to the mayor and council on how much property tax they're able to allocate to the airport.
Well, roughly, what is the economic impact to the region from the airport? What does that bring? Is it hard?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
NDOT has a study on their website,
Okay.
and I can forward out to everybody. That way you can see.
I know that we're looking at doom and gloom, but under the administration that we have now, it appears that there's going to be a heavy gain in tariffs. How that's going to work out, I don't think anybody knows. But I don't think that they can just send out and take revenues away from services that we have to provide through property taxes without replacing that with something.
They just did.
Possibly the tariffs. I know, but I mean, that's just getting a start.
Well, let me give you my perception. So you've got the Trump administration who says, I'm going to go through government efficiency. We're going to cut taxes. And his plan was through tariffs all along. The state followed that train, said, this is our opportunity. We cut the taxes, we do those things. And what was their plan for replacement? They left it to the communities to figure it out. They had no plan for replacement. I think they're starting to understand that now. We tried to tell them up front. They did not listen to us at all. So I can't count on the federal side bailing out.
No, you can't count on it. All I'm doing is speculating.
I understand.
There is a good, you just can't take the revenue, the generation of revenue away from these communities and not do something.
They just did. So that's what we're living with. We have to
that's not final yet. There good possibility there's going to be some amendments to this.
We got 30 days to get our budget done with no chance of any amendments. So we don't
understand that, but there is the possibility.
I can't budget on possibilities.
Well, and
I thought there's a possibility we could shut down SB1 for being as catastrophe as it is, and they made it worse. So no, I'm not counting on any of that.
And I understand that, but just to me, I guess it's to set with doom and gloom
I have been,
True. I mean,
I speak to legislators nonstop.
Well, I understand that.
And I do know we've caught their attention because as soon as SB1 passed a month later, the governor says looking for one legislator to push forward more property tax relief.
Mhm.
I think we've kind of been enough of a squeaky wheel, because I've had legislators, I don't know, come talk to me, that we're probably going to stop that from happening. Now, coming back on fixing what they've done, that one's going to be more difficult.
I think right now we have to take what we have as presented to us, and we have to make a budget based upon what they've given us, and that's probably for the most part set in stone. And we just have to accept it like that. So we have to brainstorm. We're gonna have to determine how to make up a funding gap of roughly, potentially $124,000. And how are we gonna do that? And so that's where I would like to look at what our budget is, where expenses are going, where can we trim expenses, where can we, try to create some level of margin for us.
Yeah, well, when we're looking at, I mean, we went through the budget with a fine tooth comb as well, which I'm gonna give you as well.
Talk about the airport budget.
Yeah, yours is mainly, just operational expense. It's not, you don't have, like labor expense you can cut. It's not there. You don't have all the other stuff to cut. You're just gonna be gas, electricity, snow plows, lawn mowing, stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's not fat in that budget
Right.
anywhere. So
Right.
your budget's extremely more difficult, which is why I brought Adam in. I was like, okay, it's not like some departments you can cut your way out of it.
Mhm.
Now, what that means may not be pretty either.
Right.
But we have room to cut. Yours, there's no room to cut your way out of it. So we've got to increase revenue somehow. I mean, it's not there. You can't control your you can control your electric bill, but you can't control your gas bill. Those are automatic increases we had to factor in.
Well, I think we're gonna have to.
You're
look
not paying the perf, you're not paying the employees, you're not paying all that stuff. So
at
that's
the utilization of our airport in terms of things like the airstrip attack.
Sure. Absolutely. I agree with that.
We're gonna have to we've got a beautiful airport out there. We're gonna have to do more fly-ins and somehow generate some revenue. We're gonna have to do more food truck events possibly. It's just an idea. I know it's an expense to the city for that, but I'm just saying, we're gonna have to get on the ball and look at that. I think with our new hangar, I think we need to really market that. And we should, I mean, that thing is what, 3 weeks from completion, 2 weeks from completion, something like that?
Yeah, pretty
Month.
close, yeah.
So I mean, I don't know what that looks like or 100% how to do it, but man, we need to get on the ball with that. And
That's why I'm
start,
bringing this now.
yeah, and start looking for, even there was a point where we were looking at potentially, a year or two ago about military, application. What can we look at there and what are either rent out our hangar or even use for drones, drone train, so I don't, anything.
That's still on the table.
Okay.
So according to the NDOT 2022 Economic Impact Summary Report, I'll email this out before Connorsville. It said it's credited with 33 jobs, which the job is defined as any part-time, they like add them all up, full-time, and so this is all the airports. So they estimate 33 jobs, a labor income of 1.98 million, a GDP of 2.45 million. So that gives you a total output of about 4.1 million is what they think the impact is to the area. Whether that's correct or not.
Yeah, it's hard to measure.
I'd like to read that. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I'll send you a link right here. It's right on their website.
Well, sounds like we got some thinking to do.
This is why we brought this up. It was really just to,
Sure.
we are facing a major issue, a major
Yeah.
problem. How do we solve that problem? It's gonna take multiple minds to come together to figure this one out.
We work with a lot of communities, and I echo what the mayor said. It's a little frustrating because unlike the nation, Indiana already had a balanced budget amendment in the Constitution. So we weren't running a deficit year over year over year. So the need on the tax reform is a completely different picture for the state than it is for the country. And we already went through a property tax cap once and lived through it. It's just, this is.
Well, the frustrating part for us is the devastating impact. Adam finally was able to calculate numbers Friday of last week.
Yeah.
I've got to have this done in about 30-something days, and it's devastating. That doesn't give you any time to figure out how to do this. So that's been the struggle. We've been kind of planning and looking, and we had our kind of expectations. He's been running some numbers, but once he got his final number calculation, that's when it hit us like, oh my goodness, this is worse than we thought. So now we've got very little time to figure out, because if we don't pass it, you revert automatically back to previous year's budget, and we're still going to be upside down, which is the funny thing with that budget.
We'll make sure I'll send out the budgets and actuals, and we'll make sure you have everything you have there to look through it. And then hopefully you all have my contact information. I'm happy to talk to anybody. What I would leave you with today is, unlike other departments of the city and other functions of the city, you do have more of a business type operation than other groups to some extent. So, I think that creativity and that sort of will hopefully help you all. We understand this isn't going to be an easy decision. So if you need anything, let us know. I'll make sure you have that data, Mayor, today.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody. Nice meeting you.
Meeting you. That's all new business, I'm assuming. Okay. Questions, comments from those in attendance?
And on a bad note,
Huh?
and on a bad note,
Right. A motion, I still need to see you luck.
I know, you're fine.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. We are adjourned.